Hi there, everybody. I'm Amy Williams, and this is Meet the Presenter from the Oran Mor Wholistic Center in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm here today with Frank A. Mills, who is going to be our presenter in October for Intro to Celtic Spirituality. Hey, Frank, thanks so much for coming on with me today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting journey getting to know you and getting to know about your work. And uh, for those of you who are watching this that don't know, Frank is the one who inspired the name of the Oran Mor Holistic Center. Uh, the words Oran Mor is from a piece that you wrote.
Right.
And that piece is so inspiring. I should forward you the email because what I said when I was talking about this class in a recent email is that when I read that piece, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's not the primordial Celtic myth. It's got a slightly different name.
Yeah, I've got so many of them I've written
Yeah,
about
there's so many. You can find all that stuff on Frank's site, which I should just tell you right now. Is it Frank A. Mills? Say the name of your website.
I've it's changed it. It's now Theology Brewing Company,
Ah.
and they'll have to go to the Celtic section.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to check that out. That sounds so fun. Theology Brewing Company. I'm so glad I asked because it was something like frankAmills.com, right?
Couldn't keep everything Celtic.
Oh, I see. Okay. But anyway, that piece, you do have several that mention Oran Mor because I got on your site and searched that. But I felt like I fell into your writing, which was so very delicious. And what I said in the email was, isn't that what we do with good writing? Is we just sort of fall right into it and we let it take us. And so thank you so much for using your gift. And Frank is a fabulous author. So you're also you have been a professor of Celtic spirituality at different
Yes.
for different organizations. Can you tell us a
I
little bit about that?
taught on staff or a visiting professor at Merrillhurst University in Portland, Oregon, and then taught in a number of other places the same kind of brief introductory courses like we're doing here.
And you said, but you had also what you brewed down for us is really just a piece of what has been a much longer class at times.
Right. It was actually well, it was a 4-year program of one class every semester with 8 classes, 8 different classes, boiled down into just 3 sessions, which maybe they'll whet enough appetites or they'll want more.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? So, so Frank, I would like to hear, what is it that got you started on this journey of Celtic spirituality? What intrigues you about that spiritual path?
Yeah. I think it's, I picked up a book by Esther Dewall. It was called Every Earthly Blessing. And I started reading it and really intrigued me. And I was resonating with what she was saying. And part of it was from going back to my own childhood as I was raised and thinking about nature and our role in nature, creation, how Celtic spirituality speaks to the wholeness of creation, the wholeness of our involvement. We become co-creators with creation or with the divine. And so that just kind of really spoke to me, intrigued me, and got me interested in thinking more about it, and decided that I was going to actually make it into a research project. And started working on it. Started working with a Celtic journal, academic, semi-academic journal, a quarterly journal, and just kept expanding my thoughts, my thinking, and that eventually ended up into a program, part of a cultural studies program at Merrillhurst. But it's basically it's a personal thing to me. It's how I try to live my life. And I'm always learning from it. Every time I rethink it, reread it, or find something new, it always speaks again and says, well, this is who you are, and this is the way you need to be thinking. And it really influences, I said the Theology Brewing Company website, but it influences all my thinking about God, how I apply that in everyday action. And, I'm using, when I say God, it could be a very nebulous thing. It isn't necessarily, for me, it is Christian God, but it doesn't have to be. There's lots of atheists who still follow this kind of view and try to apply it into their own everyday living and see themselves as being part of that co-creative act with, I use the word creation, but we could say nature. And so it's a very broad thing. It draws, to me, it draws us into a wholeness that speaks to a very fragmented world. And we are living in a very fragmented world right now. And, so I that's maybe a roundabout answer to your question, but it's something that I got into it because it just drew me into it. I had no choice, as it really was.
Well, and this has been, I'm going to guess it's a multi-decade journey for you at this point. How far back does this initial interest go for you? 20, 30 years or more?
I've always had an interest in it. I mean, I could look back, I mean, probably didn't know it when I was younger, but looking back, I've always seen the interest in it. It's, I've always enjoyed gardening and the whole concept of being part of that, and even realizing that in some mystical way, the divine was within all of the trees and the plants and everything I see, as well as other people. And so it's always been there, but I had to look back at it to realize it's been there, rather than realizing when I was younger. I mean, I can look at influences like I had my mother's, or actually it's my mother's father, my maternal grandfather had two sisters who were Roman Catholic sisters, but they were from Ireland, and they were very mystical, and they would share all these stories with me and tell me, fairy stories, but say, this is how God acts. This is the way God works. And don't tell Father so-and-so. But I've had that kind of thing. My mother had that bent. I grew up in a Scottish, what's in this country was the old United Presbyterian Church, which was a Scottish Presbyterian church. And
okay, yeah.
in the mystical vein of that side of it. So it's always been there, floating around, firmly kind of congealing in my mind. But it was after reading that book, I guess, is what really pulled it all together. And it was just, and reading that book was basically almost an accident. I was looking for something to read and pulled a book off of a shelf in a bookstore, and said, oh, it's used, it's cheap, I'll buy it, and it sounds interesting.
Yeah, there was no spirit of wholeness of the future and what needed to come forth in that little action, right? That was just coincidence.
One of the things about Celtic spirituality, it's the web. It's everything kind of weaves together, and see that in the how everything kind of goes together. You don't actually realize the web until you look back. And this is a perfect example of the web of things that were being woven together. And then all of a sudden, oh, I see this now. Now I see it. And probably that was the first thing that hit me about Celtic spirituality, was the web, more than anything else. It was just this is a weaving kind of thing, how it all weaves together and fits everything. And took it from there. And
yeah. No, I was just going to say that's so interesting. I'm still kind of stuck on the nuns and the fairies. Maybe we could just go into that a little bit more. But what comes to me as you're talking about that interweaving is how so many traditional religions, it wants to be right, it wants to be separate. It even though I think in the Catholic religion, it says the word Catholic is supposed to mean universal, but then they will also say this is the one true church and things like that.
Right.
But what you're saying is that the sense that they had was that this is part of the whole, and well, these are fairies, and we know this is part of it. So can you talk more about that?
And the whole, because it's a web, it's expanding, it's ever growing. So other things are being brought into it. In fact, it's kind of an interesting little thing, the word fairy and the word faith have the same roots.
Really?
And
What
we'll
is
get
that?
into that a little bit, but it's they actually go back to a primordial word, uh, Indo-European word, which basically means trying to what's the quickest way to say it. It
Just
means
say it.
okay, yeah, it's a long one. No, basically, just it means to be indwelled, I guess, and filled. And so faith is, it's something that it's hard to put a word. It's a very nebulous thing, but it's something which if we know we believe whatever we believe, though it may be changing, which is the thing I love about Celtic spirituality because it's ever evolving, it's ever expanding that web.
Mm-hmm.
But it's but you bring that indwelling and embedding into you, and that becomes the faith. That's what you're living off of for that moment, that time, and it may change. One of the ancient Taliesin said that there may be who speaking Taliesin the Christians rather than Taliesin the legend, saying that there will come a time, because there will come a time that God says, "I'm tired of Christianity. Let's try something different." And that was the basis of the whole Celtic spirituality, even Celtic Christianity. It's here for now, but we were part of something that was in our pagan, and we're just continuing, and it may be something else. And so it's that continuous web, that continuous sensitivity to everything that's around, and constantly bringing that in a way that's expanding.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get into quantum theory, but it's a very quantum theory thing because every little thing happens.
Oh my gosh, I can tell that you and I can go on and on because, the etymology of words and quantum physics and spirituality and on and on. We could just keep talking. But why don't we end pretty shortly and let this be an introduction to you and how deep we can go in playing with this topic and how much you have to share. And I wonder who wants to come and play. It'll be so fun to kick this off in October and to dive into Oran Mor and what that means also. So maybe we'll do another little bit about that. Yeah, yeah. So coming up in October, or maybe this is fall of 2020. Who knows when people are going to be seeing this video? Check the oranmorcenter.org for class listings. And if you don't see one at that time with Frank and you're really wanting it, let me know because we're always planning the next thing. So I appreciate you coming on with me today, and maybe we'll jump on a Facebook Live soon and go into one of these other topics. That'll be fun. Would you do that?
Well, thank you, Amy. We'll do that.
Yeah. All right. We'll do that. Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.